Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 46th episode. And the 46th episode is with head coach of Corona del Sol in Tempe, Arizona, Mr. David Webb. Coach Webb is been a state champion, 5A state champion. At the time, they were the biggest all time. Right now, they're 6A. But in 2009, they were state champions there in Arizona. One of the biggest high schools in Arizona. He's been their head coach 16 seasons, 23rd season overall at Del Sol. He's been in the Final Four 6 times, been the state finalists 2 other times besides the time they won it. So being at the final game there 3 times. He's also been head coach of the USA 14U national team as well as 12U national teams. Been involved with USA Baseball for over 20 years. This man's mission in Corona del Sol is to teach young men to always be great human beings. That's their program mission. He talks about it on the podcast. Extremely smart, great man. We talk about him he's a chess player of the game, always finding ways to do things. We get into some great ways of scoring runs. He is a master of the West Coast offense, runs a West Coast style of offense, and for those people that don't know what that is, it's kind of a smaller ball, finding unique ways to score runs, and we get into a ton of that and have a lot of fun. This guy's just great energy, a great guy, and really fortunate and to be able to know Coach Webb and just the amazing baseball man that he is, but even a better person. Even a better person. That fully comes out with all the stuff he talks about in his program, how he treats his guys, and the expectations, the standards that he has set for them. And so, without further ado, I want to get into this. I can't thank Coach Webb enough. Again, Coach Webb from Corona del Sol. Check him out. But without further ado, I just want to welcome you. Enjoy the conversation with head coach at Corona del Sol, Dave Webb.
Pretty much run our baseball program autonomous of everybody else. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have good programs, but some of them, I think they're afraid of our grade program to look in there and see what their kids are doing, whereas I check them weekly. I don't think they talk much about character. I don't think they really know what's really going on with their kids. And I'm sure I don't know every little thing, but I try to stay on top of that. I'm not obsessed with it. I'm not following them on Instagram or Snapchat or anything of that nature, but they know where we stand on character. And I mean, it's our mantra. When I start my parent meeting, I tell them we are a character-based culture. That's what we are. And that's literally on my title slide when I'm talking to parents day one of we've made our teams. Let's talk about what this year is going to look like in the spring. We're a character-based culture, and we're never wavering, ever.
So awesome. So as you came up with this mission, to help teach young men to always be great human beings. So when you do have that meeting, it's just like, this is our mission, and you base all your decisions basically based off of that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it is 100% the reason why I think we get the clientele that we get. Now, we're different. So right or wrong, there's states that have you have your school boundaries and you get all your own kids all the time. There's certain states. From what I've heard, like in places like Florida, it's a free for all. Like kids can transfer anytime. They can leave and play football, play football in the fall, leave, and then play baseball at a different school and be eligible in the spring. We don't have that. But if you come into a school in your freshman year, you can come from anywhere and play at any school. Our school is very big, our state, I should say, really big in school choice, that if you're stuck in a district where that school is failing, mostly academically is what they're saying, then you can go to a school out of district.
Okay.
And so, but you have to do it before your freshman year. If you do it after that, then you got to sit a year.
Oh, really? So transfer and you'll have to sit a year, basically like a Division I transfer.
Yeah. So as long as you do it before. So we are fairly affluent community, but it's getting older. The kids have kind of left the roost and the parents have stayed. It's still a very nice area, but the population should be lower. But our school is so good academically as a public school, and our sports are so good that we get kids from all over the place. Like I live in a place called Gilbert, which is the fastest growing city in America. It is just house after house after house still getting built out here. And there's all kinds of new schools, and we're getting kids that will leave this area that live out here and come to our school, which our school was built in 77 because we're open districts. So I think they come not just for good baseball, but because, we have a reputation for holding kids accountable, that we don't put up with stuff. We hold grades above everything. We win year after year. We're winning a team award for team GPA with the Arizona Interscholastic Association. And that stuff, which a lot of coaches are afraid to kind of hang their hat on, is bringing us a lot of amazing kids that are also good baseball players. That's the kind of kid we get now. It really is. It's the kind of kid we get in this situation.
That's
good
awesome.
Kids.
And especially now, we all know how strong the parent relationship is. And I'm sure that probably helps you get even better buy-in there.
100%. And you just stay consistent. I mean, no one's better than the team. And that's the thing that's what's always going to get. And that seems very commonsensical, but that's what always going to get guys caught is when they bend for their better players or they look the other way for better players. And it happens at our school in certain sports. It's happened before. It always costs you. And I can honestly say I never do. I never do. And because I don't, I think I just have this, it's an unwritten agreement. I've been there now for 16 years. And as a head coach, I've been there for, 23 overall. Mm-hmm. And they kind of know before, they get there what I'm all about. And then I clarify it for them, in what I call Aztec Baseball 101, which I have at the very beginning of the year. Parents will come in and I put them through exactly what this world looks like, what character looks like, what grades are going to look like, and that their kid's going to be held accountable. Whether they do it or not, it's going to happen with me. And so, I mean, it's good. It's good stuff. I think getting it out of the way with parents, that's the problem is guys don't want to deal with parents, yet they want their money. And so, you got to play, you're not buddy with them and, hanging out with them at bars or anything, but you have a friendly relationship with them. You work with them. I mean, this is their kid, their most important thing in the world. Right. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes down to it, when you meet with them, you set the standards and then you live up to those standards and they seem to respect it. We seem to get parents that respect that. I don't have a lot of parent issues at all. Mm-hmm. And then part of that is communication. I set forth in that meeting that I tell them the biggest thing kids, I would say, actually, if you take it on the other side, if you take it on the coach's side, regardless of sport, my daughter's going through this in the volleyball world. It drives me nuts right now. They don't communicate. It's a 1980s my way or the highway mentality where, they move you, they make a move. And just for the sake of the team, because you're on the team, you just deal with it. Well, a confused kid is less than enthusiastic kid to play the sport. The kid's confused why he's not playing. And the parent's confused. That's where you get stuff. If you beat him to a punch, you got a kid that's been playing 8 games in a row and he's in the 3-hole. He's struggling. They don't always notice that they're struggling. They get after that 8 games, you go, let's make a change. Go straight to him and let him know.
Right.
But some coaches just make the change and expect, hey, he's a team guy. If you're a team guy, you know why I made that change. You haven't been swinging the bat. I'm going to move on to this next guy and give him a shot. And they don't have that conversation. And you get a confused kid, which leads to confused parents, which leads to huge problems. So communication, getting out front and really over communicating, being offensive with your communication is big. Being on the offense instead of the defense. Yeah, go out there and before they even have a chance to have any other thought in their head, meet with them, pull them aside, and said, hey, you're going to see in the lineup today. I know you've been in there, the last few days. I'm going to give, this kid a little bit of a shot. You've been struggling. Keep battling. You push him. Okay. But at least he knows where he's at. And here's what I specifically need you to do to compete with him to hopefully get back in there in some way, shape, or form. That's why I don't have problems. I really believe that. I try to teach that to younger coaches, not only in my program, but at our school, that beat them to the punch with communication. As soon as you make the slightest change where a kid's going to go, did I do something wrong? Go tell them exactly why you're making that change. And you'll save so many headaches. You really will. And parents get that from me. So yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, man, that's great. No, that's great. Let's go. Let's keep rolling. Because I was thinking that, like, Joe, do you find yourself like in practice situations doing that a lot, or is it after practice?
All the time. I am not a sarcastic coach. I know there's a lot of coaches today that they coach and get giggles and laughs through being sarcastic with players, or getting a laugh at the, expense of one kid, a laugh by everybody, expense of one kid. I'm just not that guy. I'm just going to tell you directly what you're doing wrong and how to get better. And I'm going to tell you why it's wrong too. I'm going to communicate all those 3 points really right off what you're doing wrong, what it's going to cost us, and how in a game this is going to kind of affect us. It's going to give up an extra 90 feet. That 90 feet is going to put a guy in scoring position, and that's that one run you lose by. Our whole goal in our program is to win one-run games. When you start looking at how many years you've coached and how many one-run games you win and how many you lose, you start paying attention to not hitting a cutoff, not doing this, not having proper footwork on certain things, and those controllables. And then you just divide your coaching between saying, hey, this is your mistake. Here's what it's going to cost us in a game situation. This is why you need to do that. And then you encourage them to say, hey, in a respectful way, come back at me and say, okay, well, coach, what about this thing? And I want to know that. I want to dialogue, and we'll dialogue through a lot of stuff. Again, either you're that my way or the highway guy from the 1980s wearing bike shorts and, this is the way it's going to be, or, you're in it all together. And when you start teaching them and you encourage them to be tactful and talk to you back and ask questions, especially on the why of stuff, they really start to buy in. So, I mean, that's kind of, in a long way answering, I guess, your question there.
What has been like, as you've held so many kids accountable, what's been like one of the biggest things that you're just like, that you've had to make a decision that's made, is there anything that really stands out that you just like, we had this guy couldn't play, it wasn't part of our standard?
2011.
I figured you had one.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, this one spread throughout every year. And it, as far as like through the community, people, I think word got out, and I literally have not had this problem. It's not to say that the kids have been perfect. I honestly don't know what they always do. I mean, that's for parents at some point. You got to turn it over to parents. But I know they now know where I stand. I had 5 kids who were all returners, 4 seniors, and all starters too, and 1 junior. And they, after Thursday of our week tryout, we're going to have cuts on Friday. After practice on Thursday, they were at the local park down the street. We finished at about 5:30. The sun's up at that time of year for a fair amount of time. And so they went down to the park. They were sitting right in the back of a truck, still in their Corona gear, in the back of a truck, and they were smoking out of a bong in front of God's creation and everybody. There was kids practicing. There was a lacrosse practice. There was a parent that stopped by and like, are you seriously doing this? And they were so emboldened. They're like, who cares? And they, kind of attitude. And then our lacrosse team was a club back then. It wasn't a sport at our school. And that club lacrosse team is a teacher that I teach with. And he talked to one of these parents and saw with his own eyes what was going on. And he came and he goes, I know you don't want to hear this, but this is what happened. And I know one of the guys was this kid. And I said, I appreciate that. So there we are on cut day. This is cut day, Friday. I call one guy in, and me and another coach are in there. It was Vesley.
Yeah.
Coach Vesley, who you
Yeah.
met. And we go, all right, we're going to give you a chance here. This is what's being said. You were there. Did it happen? And he goes, yes, coach. And so I said, all right, this was a group of guys. Who was there? Tell me who was there. And some guys would say that was wrong to say that, but I wanted to know. So I asked him, and he basically bus chucked everybody I looked at him and I said, I respect that. You're cut. And I sent him home. And then I went and grabbed every kid that was there. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of stuff. There was one kid actually who literally said to me, Coach, I have a problem. I can't go to sleep without smoking. I can't study without smoking. My parents have no idea. I sneak out my window and go in my backyard and then sneak back in. I mean, and we were able to get him some help, which was good because he was deep into it. I cut every single one of them. Wow. And I brought up 5 sophomores. And that team, the team I brought up in 2 years ended up going to the state finals. So, but it set the tone and it was tough. I had a mom that sat in the room and said, you don't believe in second chances? And I said, yeah, but these kids know exactly what my expectations are. And at that time, we just legalized marijuana, but it wasn't legal then in 2011. And I said, I got standards and I'm sorry, it's a tough lesson. And, hopefully they'll learn if they don't live up to our standards. She looked me straight in the eye. My son who's a freshman in college now. Yeah. Was 7-8 years ago. So he's probably 10. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I know you have a son. You wait till he gets into high school and he screws up and he gets caught smoking marijuana sometime. You're going to want a coach that's going to give him another chance because he spent all this time. And I just said, ma'am, respectfully, my son ain't going to get caught smoking marijuana. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that. And she goes, oh, your son's perfect. And that ended in a hurry. But I kind of resented that she used that to give me a little speech on my own child who she didn't know. And that's where it left off. And, we took our lumps early in that year, but I tell you, we came back and had a great year that year. And seemingly those next few years after that, we were on the same. I ended up, one of the kids that literally got away told me he wasn't there. The rest of the kids said he wasn't there. But then I found out later that he was there. I let it ride for a while. And it's funny how that stuff comes home to roost. Later in the season, we're 1 game from the state playoffs. He's an ace. By the way, I'll tell you, this kid pitched for a particular team in 2016 in the College World Series.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
Which is interesting because I kicked him off the team. I kicked him off the team that same year. We were going to the last game. It was senior day. Well, I told him the week before, I'm like, I never play all seniors on senior day. I'll play some. I'll try to get you in. If all of a sudden we start boat racing somebody or we're getting boat raced, I might throw you guys all out there. But if it matters for state seeding and stuff, right, I'm going to play to win. We're going to honor you before, but I'm going to play to win. Apparently he didn't hear that. And so he was a first baseman as well. And I decided not to play him. And he came up in front of my 7-year-old daughter. And I had my hand on her shoulder and he walked up with tears in his eyes and he literally looked me right in the eye and said, what the F is wrong with you? Yeah. In front of my daughter. Yeah. So I walked him behind the dugout, calmly put him back there. And I said, you can go in there and take your jersey off. Your career at Corona del Sol is over. And he threw a fit. And this is on senior day, man. I'm in 2 minutes. I'm getting ready to go talk about my seniors to all these parents. Great. Right. And
then get ready to go to the playoffs too next couple weeks.
Exactly. And we went to the playoffs and lost the first game. Right. And I don't have a regret. Yeah. Yeah. I don't, because all the years after that, I honestly believe I started getting a better quality kid because parents knew what they stood for. And although there's a lot of parents who love to run all over coaches and, think they can manipulate the coaches, I really don't feel like we get that kind of kid. Mm-hmm. We get a kid whose parents are like, this guy doesn't put up with anything. My kid's going to get a fair shake. He's going to be honest. He's going to make sure he gets grades. And my kid's going to leave that a man. Yep.
And like you said, be a better human. And
he's going to have a landscaping degree because our kids aren't afraid to do field work.
There you go. Try to get that ryegrass. They got to get it green though, man.
Heck yeah. It's coming. We fertilized it. Me and Coach Vesley mixed up some microbes, some bacteria, literally last week. And we sprayed our whole entire outfield with these microbes that are supposed to encourage growth.
Isn't it crazy? Like at baseball, I think there's another very unique thing about baseball coaches. You'll suddenly become some mad scientist trying to get the weeds off of it or get the thing to grow, keep it green. It's like we have all these little tricks, like it's just what's so unique about baseball coaches.
I joke with my basketball coach all the time. He's a great dude. I'm like, dude, how is it? You get the guy on the little machine to wash and sweep your floor. He drives it back. And then every once in a while you run that giant mop over it. And then that's it. Yeah. Flip the lights on in practice.
All right, guys. Practice time. It's great. Oh man, that's been awesome. Just a great testament to the freaking culture, man. That was what a way to start things off, man. That is awesome. Wow, just getting into a unique way of playing baseball, man. Like the Del Sol way. Do you have a way you said Aztec 101? That's kind of like what you guys do, right?
Well, Aztec 101 is more like what I call Aztec Baseball 101 is the presentation I do with parents.
Okay.
So I'll do that with the parents on what to expect, what we stand for, that a kid doesn't play. Like the AIA says, if you have a D, you can still play. Well, I don't have that. Our whole school, pretty much every program says if they're passing, you're good, except for us. They got to have a C. If you can't get a C, you're not going to go anywhere in life, really. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And I just raise those standards, and it's amazing when you raise them just a little bit. It's funny how they'll rise up to it. You get some kids that'll challenge you. Stick with your guns. Just say, sorry, you're going to miss some playing time. It's not.
So is that what you do? So is that what you do? Yeah. You kind of check their grades, and if they don't get the C average, then it's like, you're just going to miss some time until you check them again.
Yeah, 100%. Now that you can run them in the ground, you can run them till they barf. You can do things that are undesirable, but it ain't going to change, really.
Right.
You got to take playing time away. And I know you, and you know what, we're not afraid. I'm not afraid to meet with them. I don't do this. Kids don't like being called out in front of the group. So I'll do it usually personal. I'll say, you're costing us. You're not just costing you by not being able to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I tell them, somebody's going to step up. Somebody's going to step up. Someone's going to play and we're going to still compete. That game's still going to go on, even though you're not going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when it's playing time and not just running or physical something, how quickly they get stuff fixed. Teachers want to help, man. Regardless of where you are in the country, most teachers want to help you. You just got to put in some extra time. That's what I tell my guys.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was just thinking like the Aztec way of because also I think, do you feel like it's also getting yourself, because people now know the kind of way that you do play as well, the kind of game that you play,
it spills over 100% into gameplay. I mean, we're the rebels and I don't know if in Arizona, but definitely in the East Valley, where there's just an unbelievable amount of great teams in our area and tons of good baseball in our area. And I'm uncommon, man, to the core. We've put uncommon. We've put selfless on shirts. We've put grit. I don't put compete because everybody freaking competes. I mean, you put that on a shirt. I mean, I don't know. You're going to put some catchy phrase? No, I'm going to put character over everything or culture over everything. Selfless, uncommon. I'm going to put something that we really stand for that is going to be different than anybody else. I want to be a rebel the other direction. It's become acceptable to talk trash from the dugout, to try to get in people's heads. Never. Never, ever, ever. And, kids come from club baseball and they're a little chirpy. We never chirp. We never say anything to the other team. We will come unglued when we get a sack bunt down, when we score a run for our own guys. We'll talk to our own guys. We will stay enthusiastic in the dugout, and it will never involve the other team, ever. And my guys take it personal when you do. You have no idea, a kid that's being shut down by his coach because he holds a higher standard and he's not allowed to talk and he's got to take that from the other team. You're just motivating us. I've walked up to another coach after a game and literally said, you must not have a lot of faith in your team because you let them talk all kinds of trash. And if that's how you got to try to get into my high school kid's head to beat us, so be it. Okay, but we're going to beat you straight up. We ain't going to try to have to get into your head and talk trash and chirp to try to manipulate the game. We're going to beat you straight up. I've told coaches that before. It's a little bit of a fungus out here at times in Arizona. Some of the things that go on with dugouts and stuff like that. And once again, it all comes back to character. It really does.
Oh, for sure.
So we're different in that respect. There's just not as many of those teams and coaches anymore that are willing to do that.
Just hold the standard, hold the line, and
Yep.
like I said, be more. You have a program of significance. It's more than just the wins and losses.
100%. We're building men. I mean, my son just graduated. He came through there. A lot of his friends he played with that were younger came with him, and made it through our program. And you know what? I mean, you coach your own kid. Some guys are like, oh, I don't want to coach my own kid. I want him to go somewhere else. And I was harder on him. There was a lot of times I was like, I need to, Investly was quick to tell me, you need to shut up, dude. You're on too much. Cause I was hard on him.
Yeah.
And, but I honestly believe I coached him just like other kids. And I think he was a greater person for playing in our program. And that's my own kid. So.
No, that's great. No, sure. Man, I'm just thinking too, like about our guys, like I know, like, cause you mentioned earlier about, your kind of offense and how you play for those, the stadiums that you play for, in the state tournament, and like how you play the game there. Is that also a very unique way of playing the game? Like how you kind of go about it to get ready for that? I know like your West Coast offense kind of stuff. I know, is that helping you?
We play in a decent sized high school yard. There's a lot of small yards in our area. Not as many as I've found out in other parts of the country as I've traveled. Some of these places are really, really small. We're about 335 down the left field line, about 390 in center. But then in right field, really, we got a short porch, it's like 310.
Mm-hmm.
But it plays really big to left for us. I mean, the ball doesn't fly. So, you gotta design your offense around what you're dealt. I mean, are you an older, more experienced and physical team because they've hit puberty and the weight room and all of a sudden they're capable of driving the ball a little bit more? Or are you going young a little bit or maybe you're not as quite physical that year. So you got to go more towards that, like you said, West Coast style. But regardless, we are trying to hit every ball we can through our middle infielders or through the center field fence. We stay to the middle of the field and we try to hit low line drives everywhere. And the ball, it's funny. We were talking today with a lot of younger kids about cues in hitting and how you have to trick yourself into sometimes creating the right bat path. And sometimes like this whole Twitter war on hitting, it's largely about what people are using as literal cues as hitting and what guys are saying, no, it's just a cue. It's figurative. So, I mean, it's like when you say swing down at a ball, most guys don't actually swing down when you put them on film. They feel like they're swinging down, but what they actually get out of that is a flat plane swing that they stay through. And you trick yourself into doing that. And, that's what we do a lot. We work on trying to maintain all of our cage work and BP work, balls to the middle of the field. We're not living in the air. Okay. But it's funny how, and I was taught this when I was taught to hit in sixth grade, that your eyes almost miss lower than what you're always aiming at. Mm-hmm. You're always going to miss just a little bit lower. Like if you're aiming for the top back half of the ball, 9 times out of 10, you're literally going to strike right on the back of the ball. When you're looking at the ball as a whole and you're trying to strike the middle back half of the ball, crazy enough, you're going to miss and hit the bottom half and pop up a little bit. So we hunt that top back half. We hunt low line drives when we're swinging it. And what happens is it runs into guys that have a little bit more juice. They'll hit the ball out. They'll drive the ball in gaps routinely. Okay. But you don't always have those guys. So, I mean, high school is partly people realizing who you are and that kids know who they are. I mean, are you a little guy that's, quick and you got to play, I got to bob through the holes. I got to be a tough out. I got to have a high on base percentage. Am I a doubles? Am I a gap guy? Or am I a true power guy? And we rarely at our place get a true power guy. We got a kid at ASU right now who's a true power guy. And he was in high school. Wow. And you wanted him to kind of get it up in the air and hit it. Mm-hmm. But for most of the guys we get, that's just an out. And that definitely doesn't play in, like I said, those big fields, which we're all in it to try to keep that season going into state tournaments. And I see the death of so many good teams who really can lift the ball on the small fields in high school, and they have great regular seasons, and then they can't dive fast enough on those big fields. Those balls are all caught. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how did we lose? We're so good. And I'm like, well, I could kind of tell you this, but I probably won't. So that's what leads us to the West Coast offense a lot of times. Last year's team, we had 6 D1 kids on that team. Wow. We weren't and we only played 10 games.
Yeah.
And because the season got canceled.
Right.
That group had played a bunch of them as sophomores. We were West Coast offense to the core. As they grew and they got stronger by their junior and senior year, we weren't really West Coast offense all that much because they could swing the bat a little bit. And I let it eat last year. We're back to being young this year. So we're going to go through some serious West Coast offense vibes to put heat on people. And I love it, man. Those young teams are actually more fun to coach. It's a fun way to play baseball. The kids think they don't like it until they do it, and then they love it and they embrace it and they wear it like a badge of honor.
When you start to this, the other team like implode.
They do. It's every game. It's every game. I'm just like, it makes me wonder about coaches sometimes. It really does. I'm like, what are you doing at practice, dog? If we can pull this off on you.
So, like, let's get into a little bit, like, how do you implement your system? Like, how do you implement more of like a West Coast feel, especially for a kid who like came up, hasn't done it before. Like you said, they don't really like it at first. But they don't really care for it. But just trying to learn your system and learn what you do. Like, how do you go about?
No, you're good. It could be, that's a great point because you're starting with the most unrelatable thing on the planet, which is Major League Baseball.
Right. And that's really all they know. That's all they watch.
Throw as hard as you can, hit it as far as you can, and strike out a lot. It's getting more and more boring. Our kids hate watching baseball. And here we are as adults. Here's the realistic side. Think about this. We complain and we whine about kids not watching baseball anymore. Would you? I mean, we appreciate it because we're older generation. We love to see the thinking man and this and that. And we can sit there and we have the patience to sit there. I'm just telling you right now, when you're watching an average of 10 to 11 strikeouts a game, you're not doing anything with baseball to make kids want to watch baseball in today's day. Okay. It's boring to them. So this kind of baseball is fun. So you would ask me about like junior high stuff. We don't have our junior high. We don't get a lot of contact with our junior high. So I don't get to really work with like 7th, 8th grade kids before they come to us as freshmen. Yeah. We have a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team. We have 2 fields at our place. So, so we have more than enough space, but we don't get those kids prior to when they come to us.
Okay.
So, and we're getting a lot of kids, like I said, because of districting rules, we actually get a lot of kids that come from out of district to come to our school to play baseball. So I don't know a lot of them. So like you say, how do you start this out? It basically, it's not all bunting, but I think that's where you start. I mean, because we're going to talk about running the bases, being aggressive, dirt ball reads, from steal to delay steal to fake steals to running off fake steals. But it seems to always start with, all right, we're going to run a West Coast offense. Let's start with one of the concepts. And that concept becomes bunting. It is amazing how no kid knows how to bunt as a freshman. I mean, if your kids come in you got kids coming in as freshmen and they have a concept of bunting fundamentals, you're like, holy cow, this is interesting. Okay. But that's the one that's going to take the longest, I think. So that's what really I start with.
Okay.
And we did this a while ago and we'll start with the basic kind of fundamentals that we teach on bunting, which I truly love teaching. Fundamentals of mostly sack bunting we start with. We'll we'll run 4 stations off the 4 bases on a field. We'll have a coach throwing to a different function at each base. And we just run them in a cycle. And that's kind of the introduction. So we'll do a home plate talk. We'll talk about what fundamentals, the importance of bunting, how you stand, where you sit in the box, setting the angle early, all those fundamentals, and then we'll kind of put it to use at each base and run them in kind of a cycle. So
each of your base will be a different type of bunt?
Basically, yeah, so we'll start like drag bunt, when we did it a month ago, it was home plate was sack bunt first, man on first. First base was sack bunt man on second. Okay, because we never, ever. Well, let me just go back. When we bunt, we start with teaching them when there's a man on first base, you will bunt the ball to the first baseman. You won't just get it down. You will never bunt the ball to the third baseman ever. And it drives me nuts when people set such low expectations for their kids to just say, just get it down.
Yeah.
Or if the third baseman happens to be right in your face and turn because his hips are already pivoted towards second base and throw the lead runner out and you don't get the sacrifice, that's okay. I'm not okay with that. So we got a man on first, we bunt the ball to the first base side. We got a man on second or first and second, we always bunt the ball to the third base side. And then we explain to them, the why of that.
Yeah.
That which is important, that they understand the why. And they go, oh, that makes sense. And then you just hold them that standard. So that'll be your first two stations. At second base is a suicide because we run crazy amounts of suicides. That is the one thing that I can share with you that will absolutely show the vulnerability of a team. Is a suicide squeeze, really, because you can run a lot of stuff off of that, and the wheels start turning, the panic buttons start getting pushed.
So what are you going to run off suicide squeeze? So what else? What'll be your next step after that? Like, so you're going to set them up with just running the suicide squeeze.
Okay, so the last station that we're going to run is either a drag bunt at third base or a push bunt, and we're gonna set you up for both of those too. So everything is kind of the setup, and then doing things when people think you're not going to do it, and then doing it again, because there's something about the brain. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like you got a catcher who like tries to constantly, he calls a game based on tricking the hitter instead of picking a scab and saying, this guy can't hit an inner half pitch for his life. I'm just going to live on the inner half. They're always going to go, whoa. I think he's probably going to look for it now. So I'm going to mix it up and throw it away. And then he gives up a double. And you're like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I thought I'd trick him. And that's coaches' brains kind of think like that too, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and they don't
overcoaching and things.
What's that?
Like overcoaching, what you're saysaying, basically.
Yeah, well, that, and they kind of think they're like, God, they've run 2 hit and runs in a row. They won't run a third, and then we will. You turn the game upside down and do the non-conventional, and it's funny how panic buttons occur. So, what was your question? Your question again was
like you're talking about setting up for the suicide squeeze,
okay.
man.
I'll tell you, this is my fave. All right, so. We're gonna practice in like sim games with usually our outfielders bunting and our backup infielders to start. We'll eventually then replace our backup infielders with our starters. We'll put all our starters out there. We'll put a pitcher on the mound. He'll either throw a live ball or we'll do a coach pitch or a machine. And we'll go off a handbrake. We always go off a handbrake. That's our key on our suicides. We don't run a safety, because we're so successful always with suicides. Really, we work on it that much. It's so
you don't like the safety on a. I thought we talked about safety on a first and third.
I don't like any safeties.
No safety.
Yeah, I respect coaches that run it. It's not like I look at a coach that runs it. We have such a high percentage on a suicide squeeze, and we get people thinking so much about it if you plan it right in a game. And I feel like sometimes coaches don't take notes, or they don't take notes from year to year, because we'll do it from year to year with them as well. So we're going to create a high percentage suicide squeeze a lot. So we're going to work on it a lot.
Yeah.
And then we're going to strategically plan it. Like we play you for the first time. I am probably, when I get a guy on third base, regardless of situation, by the third or fourth inning, going to run a suicide squeeze. Okay. I'm going to run one, and I honestly believe we'll get a run out of it. And the other team will be like, okay, does he not have confidence in this guy? Doesn't have to be a bottom of the order guy. It can be a 2-hole guy. We're going to run it for purpose, because my guys know that we're going to get a run. And if they're team guys, they go, I'm going to get it. I sacrifice this for the team, but I got to run out of it. Good for me, good for the team. But it's all for a greater purpose. Now you've set that in motion. You've set this whole panic button basically in motion. What we'll do next after we run it and we get a run, we'll get to about the 5th or 6th inning. As soon as we get the first time where we get a first and third, we're going to run a fake suicide steal. We're going to have loud feet. We're going to bounce immediately back. The catcher's going to panic. He knows we've already suicide. He's going to peek down to third right away. We're going to walk into second base. and now I got guys in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect world, I'll suicide the very next pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. If not, I might do a double steal, double suicide, where you get that lead runner kind of banking on he's got a big secondary,
Right.
because that guy in front of them is the guy they're worried about. Okay. In their brain, they're going, well, crap, they just pulled one over on us. I'm feeling kind of violated. They're still kind of feeling violated. And then you really make them feel violated when you start both runners. That second guy's got an enormous lead at second base.
Right.
And he's trailing. He steals. He's got a great jump. The pitcher can't get the play at the home, makes the play at first, and our trail guy follows and scores.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, that's not a 100%, but we oftentimes will set up later in the game a second suicide to get another run because of that. Here's the other thing. I have a phenomenal pitching coach, and we've had an unbelievable pitching staff. So we're playing for those runs. We score 3 runs in a game, we're going to win. That's the goal. I mean, we've had under a 3 ERA for like 4 years in a row.
Wow. And
I haven't had a 90 guy in 23 years. I've never had a 90 guy. Just teach kids how to pitch.
That's right.
Changeup is if you teach kids how to throw a changeup, you will beat the best teams in every state. You will. But that's the thing. So I mean, we play that style largely because we're believing too our pitchers are going to hold them to, and our defense, because we're very, very defense oriented as well. We're going to keep those runs from scoring. We're going to minimize on that end, and then we're going to find ways to score and win the game. And they love it. They start to love it. They party in the dugout. They get excited when we're doing suicide squeezes. I mean, a lot of teams would be like, oh, that's how you scored a run. My kids are out of their gourd excited. It's like stealing Christmas gifts, man. I mean, really, we really feel like we're pulling one over on you, and the kids love it.
Mm-hmm. So
don't knock it till you try it thing.
Nah, man, it's just funny because I mean, a lot of what I've heard in the West Coast, we're over in the East Coast, and it's just a different style of baseball, But the West Coast style, it just seems like West Coast style. It's just more, it's more acceptable. But yeah, if guys over here, like, and I know, like for me, like there were times I could have did more small ball. I could have ran more of a West Coast style of offense based on my personnel. But yes. Yeah, it's and that's where I think the big coaching comes out of it, So, I mean, but it's more acceptable almost in the West Coast, but like on the East Coast, it's just good baseball. It really it comes down to being good baseball. And like you said, using the right personnel, like right now we're young this year, so we're going to be doing more of these things. You know, I mean, so so you start off with 4 bases, basically 4 base bunting, doing in that. How do you incorporate?
I'm super meticulous on fundamentals too. That's the thing. I mean, I think I'm not a know-it-all, but I have a process and just a way of refining how to teach bunting that seems to, in our program, doesn't mean anybody else has to do this way, of teaching fundamentals. They're going to have a very high percentage of getting a bunt down. And I have a lot of faith in it. I really do. I mean, it's like everybody's got their kind of honeypot as far as coaching. Like, this is what I do well. And, the thinking part of the game and pushing the norms and what's, I don't know, what's expected and playing something that's unexpected during a game, really been rewarded with how pleased kids are with that as well, and how much fun the game becomes. And it works. And, whether people talk down, you got people on Twitter that are just saying bunting is the worst thing in the world. And hey, they're allowed to have their opinion. That's fine. But come play us.
You'll see. You'll see how much it matters.
You think differently.
So, Coach, what is your when you're talking your bunting process, is it just the 4 bases, or is even breaking it down even farther? How you're taking the technique of bunting and what?
Way more than that. Technique wise, some of the stuff's going to be consistent, but some of the stuff may be different. We're going to get on the dish. So we're talking sack bunt. We're going to get on the dish. First of all, you're going to get a sign, and this is what I tell a kid. You're going to get a sign before the pitch is thrown, before you're even in the box, and where the runner is. So we tell them, there's a man on first. You were going to bunt the ball to first. We're going to give you the strategy, and we're going to give you the fundamentals to do that, to have a high success rate in getting it to the first baseman. Mm-hmm. Okay, not just first base side. I want him to have the ball and either race you to the bag on a sack or have to toss it to a pitcher who's got his back to the bag while he's trying to catch a ball from a first baseman. I want the ball in the first baseman's hands only. And so we're going to get good at that. And that takes practice, and it takes the proper fundamentals. It takes a kid to go, all right, coach gave me a sack bunt sign. Great. There's a man on first. I'm bunting at the first base side. So we go into kind of bunt fundamental 101 to teach them that. You get on the dish, make sure you have plate coverage. Okay. You're going to get up in the front of the box. I don't care if they know you're going to bunt. Okay. We're going to square early. As soon as he goes set, we are always going to square early. It's a sack bunt. I don't need you to surprise anybody. I just need you to bunt the ball to the first baseman. Okay. So we're going to do on that. I give them kind of little markers. Like if I'm a right-handed hitter, I'll say, okay, first of all, if it's on the line, it's a useless bunt. I do not want a ball on the line. A drag bunt would be different, but I want a ball to the first base side. I want it off the line. I think coaches are too meticulous. They give you like this big of a space to work on bunting, and they should give you about 10 feet from the line. Because if a pitcher moves 10 feet to get that ball after throwing a pitch, your guy's going to be on second base, even if he fields it. Okay.
Sure.
And I think when guys create fine, small lanes, they're being very unrealistic. So we'll put cones out there. We'll say, this is your lane you're going to bunt through. Okay. We're going to square. When we square, I tell them it's like crapping in the woods. Okay. You're going to if I'm a right-hander, face the left-handed batter's box. You're going to squat straight down, and then you're just going to pivot your hips forward and let my back knee drop slightly. Okay. I'm not going to get in the old one knee down, almost sprinter stance where I'm like right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Drives me nuts. Sorry if I know a lot of guys still do that. We squat, we get low, and then we get the bat at the top of the zone right underneath my chin. So I give them the top of their zone, which is right underneath my chin. I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to work down with my knees. Okay. If it's the ball to first, I know I'm going to find my angle. So as soon as he goes set, I squat, I square, and my knob on my bat is going to be pointing at the third base coach.
Being right-handed.
Yep. Being right-handed. That angle right there will give you a perfect angle. Now it's like, I tell them it's like goofy golf when you're trying to bunt or when you're trying to putt and you try to hit the wedge and it hits the angle and goes the other direction. Yeah. You're the wedge. I'd say be the wedge. That's it. Yeah. But you set that angle. Okay. We set that barrel slightly above level. We're not 45 here. We're just slightly above flat. Okay. Knob at the third base coach. Then I'll bunt the ball. When we bunt the ball, we're looking for the end of the bat, last 6 inches. We'll put tape on a bat and let them really see where the end of the bat is and feel the ball getting bunted off the end of the bat. You know, the term, I think I referred to this when I saw you at that clinic, the term when people say catch the ball when you bunt, like trying to catch it. It's the worst thing that was ever said. Worst thing that was ever said by a human being teaching bunting. Because kids get really literal with that, and they literally try to absorb the ball, and they're moving the ball the bat out of the zone when they do it, and they miss and they get pissed off. Maintain that. Start that angle, set it towards first base, find the ball. If I'm at the top of the zone and I get the bat as little movement as I can, there's my angle. I set that angle early. There's my bunt. Vice versa with the man on first or first and second or just second. We're going to set the angle early, okay? We're going to square right away. We're going to pull in our bottom hand a little bit. Now my cap is going to point right at the first base coach. There's my angle at the top of the zone. Find the ball. So I know people that are listening to this are going to go, well, we're going to run a wheel on you, dude. You run that early. Run a wheel on us, and we're going to slash 100% of the time. And we'll work on that. It's not a sign we put on. Our slash, which we actually do put on some for purpose, but our slash is automatic. You run a wheel, you get slashed on.
That's right.
Okay, it will never change. It's an auto. Our kids know. They see guys flashing and coming in, they go up to hit. Okay, so and that's kind of our rule. And you do that on one pitch, the ball will be out of the zone, and that next pitch, I'm going to guarantee you most guys don't run a wheel. And we go right back. We'll put it right back on, and we'll bunt it to the third baseman. And we're going to make him throw us out at first base, and we're going to execute our sacrifice and move guys over. So
awesome. Awesome.
But setting the angle early is a key too. I mean, I was watching. I don't want to throw.
Well, you always see that too, like guys that just like it's almost like catching it. They want right at the end, it's just moving it, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden it's foul and
exactly.
comes up.
Well, a lot of guys will. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, work on bunting with your kids. Literally, have them get as low as they can. Literally, like you're crapping in the woods. I tell my guys, if you don't get low enough, you're gonna crap all over your ankles. Okay. So you got to get really low. Okay. Really low. And I'm 47 and I get my butt really low and I get in there. I get it right under my chin. I'm at the top of the zone and I go, you're going to set that angle right away. You already know there's a guy on first. So I'm going to set the angle. There's only one thing left to do. Bunt a strike. Take the barrel to a strike. Let it sit there. Now, one other thing that helps, and I know I showed you this, and Butch Chaffin thinks it's like the greatest thing I've ever taught anybody in my world, and I didn't know it was that special, is the trigger finger.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Have you used that yet?
I haven't, but I'm waiting. I'm just waiting. There's a guy I'm working out with, and he wants to start learning a button. I'm like, just wait till the trigger finger comes out.
Yeah, yeah. It's just so much stronger way of holding the bat. And it leads to so much more feel in bunting, and it's amazing how much better kids do.
So explain how did you come up with this? Like, where did it start?
I had a coach in college.
A coach in college did
he didn't feel like, huh?
Yeah, because
I did it in college
up
in the early 1990s.
Wow. Okay.
When you think about that too, I mean, now you're thinking about it and you're like, that's another very I don't know how to say it, not athletic, but it's so weird when you think about it that you're holding between this finger and this finger. And then you're going to try it one time and you just rest it on your middle finger here, the bat, put your thumb right on top and then run that finger up the back of the bat. And you can go, our guys will take that hand and go all the way up to the sweet spot.
Yeah. And
hold the bat and they'll just find it. And it is like night and day with how many bunts you get down. It really is. It is. And I just took it for granted. We taught it like that for 20 years. And then in the last few years, we were talking bunting and we were sitting around talking. I mentioned that and which is like, oh, that feels so much better. It makes so much good or so much better. And I was like, yeah, man, you guys don't do that. And they're like, never heard of it in my life. And I'm like,
never.
No way.
Never.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
It's one of those things that I guess I took it for granted that it was such a big deal.
Yeah, never. Everybody's like, thumbs up, slide it down, right? Never. Fake trigger. It's just never, man.
And you never go back. I'm
already there's just a couple friends of mine even over here. Just I know that big bunt guys and can't wait to show them the trigger.
Yeah, it is, man. It works.
It's wild, man. So think about bunting we know is part of that. It's kind of step one. And I'm just thinking of how does the base running come? Where's the next? Do you do 4 base running as well? And kind of bring in those situations too.
Yeah, we'll do every day. We take live VP every day off an arm. We'll mix in machine for scrimmages and stuff like that. But I am just a big believer in live arm BP. We do the kind of what Louisville coaches last year at the ABCA talked about, the distances. We use a distance chart. So we throw BP at 33 feet at 55 miles an hour, which is the equivalent of 88 to 92, somewhere in there. So we throw firm BP from close distance because that's what we're going to see. So we prepare there. While we're hitting that live arm BP, we will always have base runners, always. So we're always running base runners that are in a situation. All of our groups, we will have some free swing, but most of it is hitting for situation. There's a group starting at first, there's a group at second, group at third. Exclusively when we have one out, the guys at third base who are running, we'll ask, how many outs, coach? Drive them in. And when we drive them in, it's going to be on first downward angle. Okay. Those guys are going to go. If I say there's 0 outs, they're going to see it through. So that's kind of a maxim they learn. And they ask us, what are we doing over here? And that's what we're going to do. You take that and you put it then into a situation game and you start playing, where guys are bunting, guys are dragging, guys are running suicide squeezes, and we're doing that. Then we go into that same situation game and you get them to realize, and you kind of map it out and slow the game down. You go, okay, look, check this out. Watch what happens here. You get a runner on second base and you get less than 2 outs. And we're going to have our guy on second, not necessarily steal a bag, but he's going to get a really aggressive, even, he's going to get the attention of the middle guys. Okay. This works especially in a situation where they've already told you the second baseman is probably going to take over coverage. Okay. And he's going to kind of hold a runner at second. And you're going to get a guy who's really in a one-way lead. He's not really intent on leaving. He's baiting the second baseman to get closer to that bag. Mm-hmm. And as soon as that second baseman is getting closer and cheating to the bag to try to hold that runner a little closer, or he's jockeying to get back, we're going to run a push bunt to the second base side. So we're going to bait him into that. So it's like, to run base running styles of West Coast offense, what you do is you think about what defenders do and how you get them to move out of a normal position where they're comfortable, and you bunt. Mm-hmm. You bunt in situations where they don't have a chance to put anything on. It's kind of like we used to run this. We really don't run anymore. It's kind of like we used to call it the little league play because it's like such a little league move where you get guys on a 3-ball count and we just touch the back of our head. And that meant that, hey, you're on that 3-ball count. If it's 3-1 or 3-2, you're obviously, you get a fat pitch, you're hacking. But if you happen to walk with this, you're going to keep on going. And we would only run it with the guy on third.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that guy keeps going and he turns, and immediately after hitting first, he keeps going towards second, but he looks in to see. And that catcher a lot of times still got the ball, or he's thrown it to the pitcher. And when you don't give a kid who has been conditioned in practice
right,
the time to put on the first and third play panic buttons, and that kid will turn around and all of a sudden throw it, and our guy stops and the guy from third scores. And it's a cheap run, but when you don't let a team who has been conditioned to set up a play, set it up, mm-hmm. that's when the panic buttons happen. And that's the same thing. You just get a kid, he's kind of, he doesn't know he's being baited, but we're going to bait him into holding the runner at second base, and then we're going to push right behind him. We're going to run I think this is pretty much common sense, but like, when do you run delay steal? We love delay steal. Okay. Anytime you get inattentive middle infielders, or anytime you get a catcher who goes down on his knees to throw the ball back to the pitcher, we are 100% going to run a delay steal. Okay. It's to the point where we teach our kids this, we work on it, and then they just know it. And they start coming in going, Coach, catcher's going down on his knees, he's being lazy, throwing the ball back to the pitcher. Or second baseman is, he's not, we call them circles, which is just whenever there's anybody on, we get our middle moving towards the middle and then back to position to take away a delayed steal from someone else.
Right.
Our fielders will do that. They'll come in and they'll go, Coach, no circles. And I'm like, let's do it. And we'll run it. And you'll get a kid who gets in, he gets his prep step, he gets in there, the ball's by, and then he's turning around and looking at the outfield. And there we go. So inattentive middle infielders we're watching for, catchers that get lazy and get used to throwing the ball back on their knees. Our catchers will always stand up and throw the ball back to try to prevent that. You get in situations like, I had another one. No, it's not in, what was it? Anytime a third baseman makes an error, we're going to drag at you the very next play. So again, I shouldn't say every time, but we love doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, you throw a ball away, he gets booted, he's in another world. That very next pitch, it's beautiful to put the heat on him again. It's amazing. Sounds harsh, but stuff like that works. And
it's just so funny. Like, what I love about this conversation too, and just always just being able to talk with you. And the last time we did is just like, and I think most of the East Coast guys, especially guys that find ways to win and do the best they can with it, is they would find out that they do some of these things, and it is considered West Coast offense, but it's still, I think, what a part of like what a lot of good coaches do. Like I ran that, like we called it bonsai. We ran on a verbal, but when the guy on third base, guy walks and it was a verbal, and guys kept on rocking. So like, I just think there's things like delay steals are over, are definitely East Coast and guys that run it. And but it's like, I just think it's almost like there's just a stigmatism to it, but it's just like, I know people, on the East Coast that run this kind of offense,
that works.
And it does. And you're just trying to find ways to win, and you're trying to find ways to squeak out runs. And but even like what you're saying, like with a third baseman makes an error and then dragging on him, like people find ways to do that, like it's just
It
fun.
is, it's you get a lefty, for instance, you get a lefty that has a good move, but it's a slow move, and he shows it a lot because it's probably worked for him.
Yeah.
He likes it. He likes to hang. He likes to really, slow the running game by he proves to you probably early at first base that, man, I can hang up here all day long, and you try to take off. I'm just going to go down in a hurry. That first baseman's going to close, go inside, and you're toast. And hey, I've been known to shut down running games. Well, for us, you hang up there long. As soon as we get a guy on third base and first and third, we're going to get that guy at first a huge lead. He's going to hang, and we're going to score. And we're going to get the ball. And that's my other, like, we are on defense. I love an athletic defensive first baseman. We don't just put trogs over there because they can hit. And if they are kind of troggish and slow, we're going to teach them how to play a great defensive first base. I have a tough time having a bad first baseman because you're susceptible for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Lefty who loves to hang and slow. As soon as he gets a guy on third, we're going to get that guy off in a huge lead and just tell you to pick over, convince you to pick over, and we're going to steal home plate from third. It's all those little things like that. But you got to be watching as a coach.
Yeah.
You got to be paying attention to what's going on and aware of those situations, and you got to practice it.
Yeah, but that's what I was going
out
with
in the middle of the game.
Right, because like I said, you said, like, you've mentioned how meticulous you are, detailed, the process of how you do those things is, and especially with a younger team now, like, do you have like a sheet, like, okay, here's our situations, like we're going to run through this, and like Sherm will say, like, you put them in the jungle at practice and say, let's do this in the game and let's practice this because this is how, like, do you have all these situations that you try to put them in?
Yeah, we do. And so that kind of fits into just like, we'll do something called chaos drill.
Yeah.
Well, we can run chaos drill out of anything. So we'll start it with like, we're doing rundowns, and we'll have a first and third, and, guy leaves early, or, guy steals and he stops. And what do we got to do here? And we tell the base runners, do the craziest stuff possible. Some coaches are like, hey, try to act dumb, act like another team. I go, act like you know everything and push and make it super difficult on them because you really do know everything. You know how we do this stuff. So act like that. And coaches are actually afraid of that. But what you get out of that is chaos on defense, and they learn to deal with it. They fail a lot, believe it or not, on that. I think you can believe they do when the runners kind of know what they're going to do. But what you get out of that is quick thinking.
Yeah.
And what can happen in any situation. And that's where you do all the rest of the stuff. And again, I mentioned earlier this why thing. It's so big in coaching. If you start conditioning yourself to coach a topic, and then don't wait till someone asks you why. Coach it, say why. Coach it, this is where it happens in a game. You saw my catch play thing, right?
Yep.
When we talk about catch play and we talk about how we step, catch, throw, and we talk about why we step, catch, throw, here's why we do it. And I would say, okay, here's where this throwing in a square is going to be in the game. Okay, this is where you're going to use it. So this is why we do it this way. And kids, immediately they're getting feedback of, okay, now I got buy-in on why I'm going to work on this. Okay, don't be that. I like that my way or the highway guy. Just change your structure and how you coach and say, this is what we're going to do, and then this is why we do it. And so when we do these things, when it's chaos, we'll tell them, all right, let's stop. Let's go back to where we were and let's coach this through. Or we'll just talk things through in a scenario where we can say, okay, let's just say we were to do this to someone else. Let's say someone does that to us, and we'll set up that, slow things down, walk through it and say, here's this guy. Where are you going to be? What is your function? Every single guy in the infield has a function, including outfielders too. Mm-hmm. We'll bring outfielders in. You're dropping down. You're my extra guy down here, or you're backing up. So we're talking it through, walking it through, and slowing the game down. And then you just put them in chaos and you run it all at them and you make them have to handle it. And at first they don't get any outs and they get frustrated. And the outfielders a lot of time who are running or second, string guys, they're laughing and they're doing this and they're like, coach, they're cheating. And I'm like, well, the other team's cheating apparently too, because they got a whole nother plan for what you guys are going to expect. And so I think it's slowing the game down and showing them why, which is so important. And you take what you're doing to other people. There's a quote that I use with our guys. which basically has to do with our strategy and why we do everything that we do. Okay. We're going to basically, I'm trying to think how I say it. And, I say it's a quote, but it's more of a kind of a mantra kind of thing. We're going to look at other people's deficiencies, and then we're going to pick on them. Okay. So we're going to find people's holes, and our goal on our side is to eliminate those same holes. Okay. So with hitters, we're going to pick on the inner half, and we're going to create a swing on our side where we can handle a ball in the inner half. So our whole goal is to find their weakness and pick it like a scab. And on our side, we're going to try to find every weakness we have and then find a solution for it. Okay. I mean, it's just problem-based solution, and almost like it's critical thinking. It's the Socratic method. You're taking yourself and you're saying, here's my deficiency as I've seen it. I've been proven to it. Am I going to just learn to stay with what's comfortable, or am I going to try to eliminate this one? And that's my whole goal. Calling pitches, running stuff, is you show me something, woof, we are going to go after it. Whether it's in your swing, whether it's on the hill, whether it's on defense, we're going to find a way to exploit it. Mm-hmm. That's really the way I coach and the way our guys learn to kind of master the game.
Yeah, you're trying to be problem solvers, man.
Yeah.
It seems like every day you put them in some type of live scenario, like a game-like live scenario, would you say?
It's close, especially early on. Yeah, again, that's we talked earlier about how a lot of it has to do with your personnel, like whether you do West Coast or you let them bop a little bit, or it changes how much you're doing bunting and stuff. It's kind of like when you look at a season and you go, okay, this part of the season, we're really going to need to get in a lot. We're young, and we're going to need to get a lot of fundamental stuff. So we're going to spend more time with that. I mean, we had 14 seniors last year, and they were a very, very talented team. They had put the work in to learn the game. So I didn't have to spend quite as much time going back and saying, all right, we're going to start with this. It was a quicker, let's get it done. We don't have to do it till it's perfect. Let's see it and let's move on. Let's see it. Let's move on a little bit quicker. Whereas with the younger teams like we're going to have this year, it probably will be almost an everyday thing where we take a little bit of time to do it. Yeah.
Even develop their routines and stuff like that. Because I know with your throwing program that you have is very detailed, and they have a routine. So I'm sure just the time to build that stuff in. Do you guys have fall ball? Is it just what you got right now?
Yeah. Every state's it's weird. We're backward in this too with everybody else. I love the weight room. We have trainers that are baseball specific, and they're phenomenal. And our kids come in, and we have a 7th-hour baseball class. It's a PE class, but it's all baseball players. It's like 56 baseball players in one class. It's great. Wow. And they come in and they train our guys during the fall. So we hit the weights hard. What I'll do in the early fall, where some other teams will play in, I mean, it's hot as hell in the fall here, man. I mean, the hottest part is not summer. It really is like August, September.
Really?
Oh, yeah, wow. It's pushing back later and later. It's kind of weird. I mean, you're talking, we're getting a little bit of humidity, which is unusual for us. Yeah. And you're getting really high triple digits, 110, 112 into August. It's miserable. Kids don't want to play during that time. They really don't. Not here. And so it's a great time to get them off the field, give them a break, get them in the weight room, and get them big. Mm-hmm. So we'll get them off. We'll get them in the weight room August, September. Into early October, we'll start playing catch, moving into long toss routines. We're still lifting like crazy. And then in late August, we usually start to get October, we start to get them back on the field again. And then once we get them back late October into November, we'll go until June. Really, we're going from that point on. A lot of people do it opposite. They put their kids out there in 110, 112. They're sweating. The kids don't want to be out there. It's kind of miserable weather to be playing baseball. And then they'll stop. So they'll go until like November, and then they'll pause, and it's the best time. Here, your ryegrass is in, your field's looking great. It's November. Here, it's 65, 70, 72 degrees in late November.
Every day, and it ain't raining.
It was 72 degrees today. So, I mean, it's sunny. So we were, we're outside, and there's some programs that'll roll into January, and for the last 2 months, which is great weather, they haven't been doing anything. Because they did all their stuff when it was hot as crap and kids were miserable out there. So I don't claim to have all the answers. It just really works for us. We get really, really strong in that time period. And then, we really hit it hard, and then we don't stop. So COVID's been interesting. It's been on and off, but we're back on right now. So we're practicing. We're going 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday.
Nice.
Just trying to get caught up from time we've missed with a young squad.
Yeah, for sure.
So, a lot of our kids too will go play in big events in early fall too. So they go play on club teams, which is totally fine for a good portion of the time. I don't make them play on a club team. They do work out with us, but we're not doing any baseball specific stuff in August, September, and most October.
That's good for them just to lift anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great, man. Gosh, that's awesome. Just a couple things, like kind of quick hitters that I just kind of threw in my mind, like when you were talking about them. Delay still. Are you like a 3 shuffle guy, or are you like a 2 long big shuffles?
We're a 2 shuffle.
You're a 2 long ones?
We're a 2 and turn and go.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I've kind of taught it both ways and just kind of seeing what you thought. And
yeah, I don't think that's not a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
I can see a 3 too. I've done a 3 before.
Yeah.
We're just having in a mode right now, where we've gone back to 2. It seems to put us on time. I'm all about timing. Like all of our leads, I don't know whether this is a pioneering thing. I find it funny all the time. And then we run a pick off of this. I can't believe how many kids still take early secondaries, that they'll get their primary lead. And as soon as a pitcher lives, like at first base, second base, wherever, as soon as a pitcher lifts his leg, they're taking their secondary. And what happens with that is, if you're hunting dirt balls, for instance, what happens is you actually get stopped as the ball is crossing the plate, and then you're restarting to try to get to the next base. We assault people with dirt balls, and I feel it's our greatest thing because we take late secondaries. We don't get picked off a lot. We make sure, we say, when you are sure he's going to the plate, you take your secondary. And what it leads to, a late secondary, that second hop on our secondary is always when the ball is crossing the plate, and our guys just keep going. They never stop. They never lose momentum. I see more guys that we play, especially at second base, in that dirt ball where the ball's right in front of you. They miss it because they are standing still when the ball is crossing the plate and going into the dirt. And they're trying to restart, and a catcher blocks it, throws them out at third base. And I'm like, dude. And the other thing is, you leave yourself open to an inside move. With an early secondary. Yeah, with an early secondary. You take an early secondary.
It's so aggressive that that your first movement, you're going.
And I tell my kids this, and it's kind of like an epiphany to them. And they're like, oh, because I tell them why we lead late. And they're like, makes so much sense. And then we'll see a team do it, and they'll come to me and they're like, Coach, look how early these guys are taking their secondary. We can pick them off. I'm like, let's do it.
Let's do it.
They will. I mean, you get
I see it a lot too at the third base league. You see it at third base league because they go so early, and then by the time the ball's across the plate, they got to come back because they're too far down. Yes. Which typically comes from a too big of a primary, but like they've already started, and they're halfway down, then they got to come. I'm like, you're not ready to read a ball at all if you're already thinking back.
Exactly. Our key at third base when we lead is handbrake. We don't do anything with the knee. Everything's handbrake.
Okay.
So like our suicide's on handbrake. Everything's on handbrake. So our secondary will be on handbrake. So, guys that try to get fans try to pick you off at third, which there's not a lot of them, but it still happens. Guys that'll mix between a big leg kick, and then maybe they'll get a guy on first. So it's first and third, and they'll slide step. If you're waiting for a leg kick, you're always caught, kind of stutter stepping. So we just tell them to look, whether he's slide stepping, whether he's kicking, we're on handbrake. Our secondary is on handbrake at third base.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't look any different when you run a suicide off that either. Nothing. It's the same thing. Everything's coming off handbrake, regardless of his pace.
Awesome. Yeah, man. So Webby, this has been phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's already been we're an hour and 15 in. Already rolling, man. Rolling.
Good stuff.
What, you kind of already talked about, things you would hang your hat on. Is there anything that you just feel like is something great to share that you guys just rock?
I'd say probably the greatest thing that's ever the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, and I love that, you're in a way in this fraternity now too, is that Necton thing. It really is. It's a group of coaches that a lot of them I've known through USA Baseball for a long time. I've been at USA Baseball with them for 23 years since I started my first year. I went that very first year. 1998 was my first year, and I met a lot of great people through that. But this group of 18 guys. There's about 8 of us actually that started in I think it was Dallas at the ABCA, and we sat down.
Yeah.
And we made our own hot stove. We were talking just about stuff we do. And all of a sudden guys came in and we had a whole group. Were you at that original one?
I was at the original one, man.
Okay,
yeah.
See, there you go. And so
phenomenal. 2 out ribbies, man.
And Butch and Tanner and I actually sat down and Wes Brooks, and we were like, what do we do with that? That was great. How can we kind of continue this? And so, at that time, someone introduced Marco Polo. And so we started, there was about 7 or 8 of us doing it. And then Wes came up with the term nectons, which a necton is an aquatic animal that doesn't follow like ocean currents, like plankton and stuff like that. They got a mind of their own, and they're going to do, it encompasses for us, like, you're going to do what's right. You're not going to be afraid to be different. Like a shark, man. A shark doesn't care what everybody else is doing, right? And so that's kind of the thing with the necton. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to do what's best for kids. We're going to have humility. We're going to have character. We're going to have all those things that, and we're going to live it. And then we're going to talk about it all the time. And it's never ending. I've got about 6 WhatsApp messages on my phone just since we've been on here that are from the Necton WhatsApp, and we've learned so much from one another. We talk about our families and just being able to do some stuff where we hopefully can give back and, bring guys into the fray like yourself and Coach Flo, who I met for the first time. Got guys from Georgia, never met the guy in my life. And we just really hit it off. And, we got to talking, and what a great guy. And I can learn from him, and hopefully I gave him some things. And here we are. You're in Maryland. I'm in Arizona.
Yeah,
this is the cool thing.
Yeah,
this is the cool thing, man. And I got to tell you, it's been one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me as a coach and as a person, because they're all really good friends as well. So I had to give props to that group because, it led me to being here with you and sharing if I had anything valuable to share. But it's great, man. And I encourage people to do it, to find a group, and start a group, and it would start small and just stay true to it. Don't give up on it. And man, it drives my wife crazy. It drives every one of our wives crazy. Every single one of us is married, which I think is kind of cool, by the way, too.
That is super cool. Yeah.
18 of us, all of us are still married. All of us have kids. Yeah, okay. Nobody's without kids. No one's without a wife. So we all feel each other's pain when this sucker starts going off and we're talking about something, and all of a sudden I'm on it. My wife's yelling at me, "Get off your phone. You've been gone all day." And I'm like, sorry, it's, we're talking about hit and run,
That's right. Showing him the trigger finger. Showing the trigger.
Yeah, I know. Trigger finger. Come on, I'm teaching.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. It's great, man. Just a bunch of great guys. I got to know Wes back when Anaheim is when I got to know Wes.
Okay.
And that was the first year. We were both in a Brian King group, and that's how I got to know Wes. And
love Brian
King. We actually got to sit with Brian King and Ken Revisit that night. It was amazing. So I was sitting right next to Wes. It was just, and ever since, man, we just been there, and I'm fortunate and blessed myself, man, to sit there with you guys. And that's when Butch was on the main stage that year when we did.
Yeah, he was. He did. He lit it up.
Yeah, he did.
Oh no, that was Nashville, right?
I thought it was Dallas. Maybe
it was
Dallas too. Maybe it was. He might have been Nashville too. He might have been Nashville as well.
You're right. I think you're right. It was Dallas. That's right. I'm getting my what are they called? Gaylord Opryland hotels screwed up.
That's true. Easy to do that. Yeah. Shoot, yeah, you would have been in my backyard this year, man, if it wasn't for COVID. We've been right at DC.
I know. We actually were talking about that on our group chat that, hey, this is when the ABCA and this is when the Capitol riots were. I was like, oh man.
I know.
That's scary stuff.
It was scary stuff, man.
Yeah.
So, man, hey, man, before we get rolling here, if anybody wants to reach out more about the West Coast style of offense, like I said, I'm telling you, there's guys out here that I know run this stuff, and they feel, it's just good baseball for me. But what's
Right.
the best way maybe to contact me, reach out to you in case someone wants to maybe
Shoot me
talk
an
more
email.
baseball? Email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shoot me an email. I'm at Corona del Sol High School in Tempe, Arizona. Again, I'll slow that down. I say it fast because I'm out here. Corona del Sol, SOL. A lot of people say we're something out of luck, SOL, but we don't like to look at it that way. It's the crown of the sun out here. And you can reach me at dwebb at tempeunion.org. And Tempe is TEMPE, union.org. Shoot me an email. Yeah, shoot me an email and we'll talk, or I can send you some stuff. I got I'm a big document guy. I think kids learn well that way. So I got documents that are in digital form I can send you on West Coast offense. I sent Coach Flo over at North Hall in Georgia. I sent him some of my documents and we've got a good dialogue going. And yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Oh, that's great, man. Webby, I can't thank you enough, man. This has been awesome. I knew it would be
Pleasure.
talking chess,
Heck yeah,
talking
right?
chess,
Ain't nobody playing checkers. Ain't nobody playing checkers.
No, it was great, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely still be in touch too. Just different things like that I think can bring in. I just the picks plays too. Like there's a whole nother thing of like the pick plays running off of it. And I'd like to get into that, and that's where I could get better for sure.
Yeah, try it out, dude. Try it. Go head on there and go back on this. I mean, it's recorded, obviously. Go back and go, okay, mention this and try it out. See what you guys do. Hey, one more, and then I'll let you go. Okay, you ready? And I think I told you about this one too. I don't think you guys out on the West Coast, they'll never figure it out anyways. Take the first and third when you got a team. Do you have a team that somebody leaves early at first base? Like they run a play where they leave the guy early at first base, try to steal a run, right? And I think I mentioned this one before, but you got to try it one time. Just put your team out there and do this. Put a first to third. Say, hey, we're going to work on when this guy leaves early, what we're going to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let that guy bounce off. I told you this, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Let that guy bounce off a little bit. And then so many people do what seems so common, which is everybody's going to yell, step off. The pitcher steps off. He freezes the guy at third. That's what a lot of people do.
Right.
They freeze the guy at third, and then he gives the ball up to the shortstop, right? And now, if the timing is right, if that guy goes back, now the shortstop's got to get that guy back, and there's maybe a rundown, and the guy at third gets in a rundown, and there's a high percentage. He might score because you're dealing with high school kids. Instead of doing that, turn that play upside down. Play stupid. Teach your kid to step off when that guy does, like everybody's telling him to. Turn his back to the runner at third, and do a great arm fake to your shortstop. The guy at third, 100% of the time, will always either take off or jump another 3 steps, because that team that you're doing that against, that's what they're doing in practice. They're looking for the stupid kid, the kid who's not paying attention to the game and the game speed. And he just forgets about the guy at third and throws it. And so they're teaching that kid, as soon as the pitcher gives it up, that guy at third is gone.
Yeah.
The shortstop's got to make a 120-foot throw to get you at the plate. So instead, just have your pitcher turn around, play stupid, fake the ball to the shortstop, turn right to third, and that guy is cold turkey. And I'm going to give you this 100% of the time. Unless you've done it before and they know you do that. So, correct. But I'm just going to tell you, that's one we did, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it works.
It works.
Every time.
It's great. Playing chess. Playing chess. Nobody playing checkers. Playing chess.
No time for no checkers.
No time at all. I ain't got time for that. Oh, yeah, buddy. This is the conversations, man. This is what I love. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, yeah, man, I honestly will just get touch base. Maybe do another time. We'll do another hour or so of pick plays. And let's do it. Oh, man. Yeah, man. All kinds of fun stuff, man.
For sure.
Love it. So, Webby, I can't thank you enough, man. Can't thank you enough.
My pleasure, bud. It was great seeing you.
Coach Dave Webb from Corona del Sol in Arizona, just crushing it. Just crushing it. And just can't thank him for the energy, the passion that he gave tonight, and for the call and the conversation, the great conversation with a great man, great coach. And Webby, I just can't thank you enough, man. Just really just enjoyed it. I loved this big thing that stuck out to me was just the accountability, the high standards that one for me is a reoccurring thing between really great coaches that we've heard from, and but just his standards and holding his line really sticks out, and his attention to detail throughout the game, throughout practice, as well as, and what we heard more of, and I think was unique to Webby, is how he does look at the game from a standpoint of here's how we can score runs, or here's how we're going to look at you and exploit your deficiency. When that's not it's a tough thing. It's still a philosophical thing, because someone on the other hand would say, we got to focus on and play our game and play to our strengths. But he's trying to exploit other people's weaknesses, and it works. It works for him, and they do a great job in Corona del Sol and the career that he's had there and continues to have. So, again, Coach Webb, you want to reach out to him, feel free. He said the email at dwebb, DWEBB, at tempeunion.org, TMPE union.org, dwebb at tempeunion.org. So feel free to reach out to him. A good follow on Twitter. You can see Coach Webb on Twitter as well. But can't thank him enough, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know I really did. Took some great notes. And again, keep sharing the podcast. Let's continue to grow the membership. I think that can find value for anyone that's looking to develop the whole player. And you can see from my Coach Webb, it's about the whole player. There's taking parts of it. There's still, we could talk for hours of all the different pieces there are, but this is about the player, about growing the game, and we're looking for that. So if you know someone that will be interested in that, please feel free to share with them. And there's anybody that we feel out there that is part of this group that likes to develop the whole player, and like Coach Webb has a mission that's beyond wins and losses, feel free to reach out to me at treytcobb@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter. Reach out to me on Twitter. My DMs are open at Coach3Cobb, the letter 3, Coach3Cobb. So until next week, keep getting better.